welcome to This Just In. My name is Sarah Underkoffler and I will be your anchor. Today I will be taking a closer look into the current pandemic, COVID-19, and its effect on today's society. How are businesses and public places opening up amongst the chaos, and what do the United States' numbers currently look like? We will also be hearing from some families about their personal experiences with the pandemic and how it has affected them in their lives. Also, how are school reopenings looking at the moment? Are most schools opening, and if so, will they remain open? Next up, we have Morgan Adams. Morgan, how are COVID numbers within America looking at the moment?
Thanks, Sarah. The United States is currently ranking number 1 for the most COVID-19 cases in the world, with over 7 million cases as of September 28, 2020. California currently sits as the state with the most cases, with over 800,000 total coronavirus cases. Since the summer has started, the states in the South seem to be getting hit the hardest, with the cases spiking in the states like South Carolina and Tennessee, according to the New York Times. Northern states such as Massachusetts and New York seem to be doing better, although both of these states had huge spikes of cases at the start of the pandemic in March. NPR says one possible reason for this could be ventilation. In March, when the pandemic began, the northern states still had fairly cold weather, meaning that the air was being ventilated for heating. In the summer, the same process happened through air conditioning in the south. This ventilated air could carry droplets containing the virus through the air and letting it reach more people in the same building. Another possibility is the political divide in the country at the moment. Northeastern states lead the country in the most mask use, while in the South, anti-mask sentiment is a lot more prevalent according to The Conversation. While some states are still at their COVID-19 peak, others have moved past their peak and the numbers of cases are declining. Back to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Morgan. Now we have Allie Rosenfeld with a couple of stories of people's personal experiences with the virus. Allie, how have families been affected by COVID?
Thank you, Sarah. A lot of families have been affected by COVID-19, whether by friends and family contracting it or themselves. Washington Post recognizes Valentina Blackhorse, a 28-year-old woman who passed away due to COVID-19, leaving behind her boyfriend, Robbie Jones, and their 1-year-old daughter, Poet. Blackhorse took part in many pageants where she displayed the Navajo culture. She had hoped to run for a Navajo Nation Council delegate position, or even for president. She wanted to bring awareness to different aspects of life, such as health, education, involvement, and her Navajo heritage. And secondly, according to Hopkins Medicine, Jerry and Georgine Stevens have both contracted COVID-19 to varying degrees and are currently healing in their home together. The 69 and 70-year-old couple got tested for coronavirus, and it was found that both had it. Jerry had to stay in the hospital for 3 weeks in intensive care with no visitors. When Jerry was finally able to return home on April 8th, it was still a sad sight. When he came back from the hospital, all I wanted to do was sit on the couch and hold hands, says Georgine. That's all I wanted to do, and I couldn't do that. Back to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Allie. Next, we'll be taking a deeper look into the reopening of schools. With the up-and-coming flu season, will schools decide to remain open? Let's find out. As the United States starts to open up, one of the widely discussed issues is the reopening of schools. Overall, the risks of spreading the virus will be on the rise because of greater exposure, so it is up to schools to manage and decide how best to open up safely. One of the safest options is to return to online learning like a lot of the schooling systems did back in the spring. This would be the safest option, as it would be the only guarantee that kids stay safe and healthy because of the lack of contact with each other. However, despite the physical health benefits, there is rising concern over the youth of America's mental and emotional health because of all the precautions, like quarantine and social distancing, required to keep them physically healthy. With the lack of physical encounters, parents worry about the mental health of their kids. Many people are fighting to open up the schools to ensure that their kid stays mentally healthy, especially with the risk of things like depression, despite the physical health risks. In lower-income families, however, there is a lot of concern that children might not always be getting the proper diet and nutrition necessary to keep them healthy because of the family's dependence on the lunches that schools provide for their children. Instead of just being virtual this school year, some school systems are deciding to open up, especially in areas with lower infection rates like parts of the northern half of the country or smaller districts. These systems have decided to either choose a hybrid mix consisting of both online learning and in-person classes, whereas some have chosen to return full-time. The restrictions within schools to help stop the spread of the virus vary from state to state, so to put a limit on contact between the kids, some schools are requiring masks, lowering class sizes, keeping all students properly socially distanced, and even closing the entire school if even one student gets a case of COVID-19. Some schools, however, are letting students run freely, not requiring masks, and only sending sick kids and their direct contacts into quarantine. A lot of these schools are located closer to the south of the country, like in Georgia and in Florida. This has been This Just In with COVID-19 updates. Stay safe.